If you guys lacking coins for all the new cards that are out, then check out mulefactory.com. They're the cheapest site I've found for coins. They deliver in 5 minutes, and if you use TGC Kurt5 at checkout, you get 5% off your order. Check them out with the link down below now. What's up guys, Curtis here, and welcome to a brand new FIFA 17 video. Today, I think we're going to look at something a little bit different. I've seen a lot of January transfer videos going around, but I thought I would look at the best ever January transfers. Now, not too many transfers tend to happen in January. It's quite a scrappy sort of time. The amount of top tier transfers are very low compared to the summer. You tend to find players don't get their pre-season, don't get to bed in. Usually, if you've got a good player, you don't want to get rid of him in January. You want to finish your campaign, see what goes on before you shift them out. So it's not too many big signings, but there are some top draw ones. And we have put together an 11 with a few subs of players that I think are some of the best ever January transfers. Not just in the Premier League, but in all of Europe. If you guys would like to see some more in-depth January transfers for all teams that are happening right now, let me know in the comments down below and smash that like button if you want to see more of this. So first up is Ryan Shawcross. Now you guys may not know, Ryan Shawcross actually started off at Man United. He didn't make a Premier League appearance for them. He went through their youth setup and stuff, but in 2008 he went on loan to Stoke. 2007 even, August 2007. But after spending a few months there in January 2008, it was a club record 2 million they picked him up for, and I think that is fantastic. It was initially 1 mil, went up to 2 mil. What a signing he's turned out to be. He's been at the club for years and years. He's had a few controversial moments, there's no denying that, but almost 9 years of service now, 8 years, whatever. Yeah, 9 years of service, 9 years of service from 2008 to 2017. Fantastic player. He's done a lot for them, and he's definitely one of the top January transfers in the grand scheme of things. Next up is Riyad Mahrez. Now, he's not exactly one that had his instant impact in his January signing. They picked him up in January 2014, and it wasn't really until January 2015 that he started to really hit the ground running. That second half of that season was when he started to get goals and assists, which of course led up to their title-winning side. It's quite funny here. It says that Mahrez had never heard of Leicester originally, and he presumed they were a rugby club when he first signed for them, which I think is quite funny. Apparently, all his friends and family were sceptical of the deal as they didn't think English football would suit him. 2 years later, he's PFA Player of the Year. Quite funny that. Next up is Gary Cahill, a very controversial player as well. He's a player that some Chelsea fans, well, most Chelsea fans like him, but he's one of those players that he goes through patches. He can be very, very good, but he has also got a few mistakes in him, as do a lot of centre-backs, but he's a solid centre-back, and he was definitely a good signing. At the time, I wanted Arsenal to pick him up from Bolton, but he joined in January 2012 on the 16th for 7 million. Not a bad deal whatsoever. Like I said, at the time, I quite wanted him to come to Arsenal. He would have definitely done a job for us, but that is a pretty good one. A player that's still starting for them frequently now. Next up is Kevin De Bruyne. This guy went to Wolfsburg in January 2014. What were they doing? What were Chelsea doing? 22 million euros or 18 million pounds is what they went for. Obviously, he's been on loans to Werder Bremen. It was a gang, lots of different stuff he'd done. But the loan, the full transfer to Wolfsburg was quite on the cheap, 18 mil. And then what did City pay in the end? 55 million quid. They basically trebled their money just by having him for 2-3 seasons. Fantastic signing for Wolfsburg. He did a lot for them in those few years and was a very, very good player. But let's get into our starting 11. And we have Asmir Begovic. What's going to be the easiest way to find him? We'll go through this bit. Asmir Begovic was originally signed by Stoke from Portsmouth on the February the 1st, 2010. Deadline day, they picked him up. A fantastic servant to the club. Did a lot in the few years. Of course, he's kind of sitting on the Chelsea bench now, probably making a good bit of money. It was only 8 million that Stoke got for them, but he was a very, very good goalie. And if they hadn't sold him, you might not have had the emergence of Jack Butland, obviously, who's had some horrific injuries in the last year, but hopefully he's back to full fitness. But Begovic, it was amazing for Stoke over the few years, and I think he's definitely up there with one of Stoke's probably best signings. Next up is Wilfried Zaha. Now, I found this one to be quite funny. So obviously Crystal Palace sold him to United. There was a bit of, stuff going on. But they loaned him back to Crystal Palace. And on January 2015, he moved to Palace for a permanent 5.5-year contract, which is quite a lot. But for 3 million quid, that seems crazy. Zaha's a good player. He's not amazing, but he's a good player. And considering United paid whatever they paid for him, I think it was 15 million or something like that, to get him back for 3 mil seems like an absolute ridiculous bargain. It just seems crazy cheap to me. I don't know about you guys, but I think that's mental and a top signing to get him back for Crystal Palace. But next up is Seamus Coleman. One of the most talked about transfers, really. At the time, obviously not, but it was bought from Sligo Rovers for a massive £60,000. Absolutely nothing. And I didn't realise it was actually a January one. It's one of those ones that always, when you talk about bargain transfers, he's in the conversation. But what a flipping purchase he was. 2009, January that year. I'm sure there's a bunch of players in that Everton team that make Coleman's fee in a week. Think about that, 60 grand a week, that's not that crazy. And Coleman, what a signing, absolutely fantastic. Next up is Javier Mascherano. What a player. Now, obviously, he's had a few transfers in his time, including all the controversial stuff around West Ham. But one of his better transfers in terms of like effect was when he went to Liverpool in 2007. He was a January signing that year. Wasn't a crazy fee. It was just fantastic. Such a cool little signing. It was really interesting. It's a shame he's not playing in the BPO anymore. I do really like him. Obviously, played a lot as DM. Not so much centre back in England, but a really cool, like, actual defensive midfielder. Big fan of him, and he was a signing in February 2010. Sadly, we can include Nemanja Vidic in this, who is arguably the best January transfer ever, maybe in the top 3. But Patrice Evra is definitely up there. Fantastic deal in 2006 from Monaco. Great signing. He was an incredible servant to the club. He did so much, won the league multiple times. He was an amazing defender. And obviously, he's at Juve at the moment. Big talks him coming back to the Premier League. I'm not sure where that's led. I know there was big rumours, obviously United, but there was another club. I can't remember who it was, but he was linked with massively. I can't remember exactly, but it would be interesting to see him back in the Premier League. Now we're going to go on to arguably the best signing in this squad, and it is Mohamed El Neni. The guy was picked up for between 5 and 7 million. Guys, I'm joking. I know, the comments are already being... I was joking. That was a funny one. Mohamed El Neni is obviously not one of the best January transfers. But someone that's similar sort of rating on FIFA now is Darren Fletcher. And I feel like this is such an underrated purchase for West Brom. Obviously, a couple seasons ago, 2015, February that year, so 2 years ago now, Darren Fletcher was picked up by West Brom. After, obviously, his horrific illness, he battled through it, and he has been almost ever present. He played all 38 Premier League games for West Brom last season. He's already played 18 this year, and we're not far off that, I don't think. He may have played in every game since he joined, which is mental, every Premier League game. He has been crucial for West Brom, and I've seen them do so well this year. Very good player. And I think he's a very under-the-radar one, but you can't deny that he is up there with the top January transfers. Next up, in completely different sort of player, is Ivan Rakitic. Now, we're not talking a Barcelona transfer here. We're talking about his move to Sevilla. Obviously, he was playing at Schalke. And in January 2011, for €2.5 million, which at the time was probably £1.7 million, he moved to Sevilla from Schalke. What a fantastic signing, given that several years later, they sold him to Barca for a lovely little fee. He's gone on to be an incredible player. He's fantastic for Sevilla. I think he may have even got in the Liga BBVA Team of the Year whilst at Sevilla. Great little player, very popular in Barcelona, plays a lot, he's a very good player, obviously big on FIFA as well, and definitely one of the best January transfers we've seen. And next up is Nemanja Matic. This guy has been involved in some funny transfers. I'm pretty sure he was involved in the deal that saw him go to Benfica, David Luiz come back, and money, that whole sort of situation, which was kind of mental. But then, several years later, obviously Chelsea bought him back in January 2014, and he was arguably, for a year and a half, the best defensive mid in the Premier League. Obviously, they picked him up January 2014. They won the league the following season. He was crucial. He was actually one of just 4 midfielders to be nominated for PFA Player of the Year, which for a holding mid is it's pretty tricky. You don't hear that often. He's a very good player, and he's one of my favourite January transfers. Now, we're getting on to some of the big boys. Now, you may not think this one's a big boy, but in terms of his effect, this one is crazy. Jermaine Defoe. I mean, he's had a lot of flipping transfers in his time. I'm pretty sure he went to Tottenham during the winter. I'm pretty sure he went to Toronto in the winter. Possibly, yeah, he went to Portsmouth in the winter. Almost all of his transfers tend to happen in January, which is kind of mental. But Sunderland, the one that counts now, 2015, 16th of January, what a signing he was. Fantastic player for them. He's been so crucial to everything they've done. He could be the difference between them staying up and going down. Lots of talk of him getting a move. Obviously, West Ham put in an awful bid for him this window. But if he was to get the move, it would be absolutely unbelievable. But he is one of the best January transfers. The effect he's had on the club is crazy, and he is so important. But Our last two are pretty mental. First up, we have Daniel Sturridge, and we're going to do these together. We have Daniel Sturridge, of course, when he joined from Chelsea to Liverpool. I remember exactly where I was when it was announced. Quite a bizarre one. I wasn't sure how well he was going to do. But there's him, and there's Luis Suarez. Both January signings for Liverpool. Different years, but wow, what an impact they had. Daniel Sturridge was January 2013. Suarez was January 2011, so 2 years in it, but of course they were together when they had that incredible season when Liverpool scored, I think it was 106 goals over the year. Pretty sure they broke the record for goals. They finished second, obviously Gerrard slipped, we all know what happened, but what a pair of signings. Suarez was bought for 22.8 million and at the time was the biggest signing until later on the day Andy Carroll was announced for 35 million. I mean, if we were to do a worst January signings, which let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do, I'm pretty sure Andy Carroll would be the star one. But if you look at it, Suarez and then Sturridge for 12 million, you combine them together, 35 million, the same price as Andy Carroll. You got these two, both in January, absolutely incredible. Like I said, arguably the two best January transfers, especially with the impact they had on that team that season. It was unbelievable. They're close to rivaling Mohamed El Neni, but flipping heck, what a pair of signings. Let me know down below if I missed any January transfers, guys. I'm sure there's going to be some big ones this window. There's already been some, I think they've broke the record for the most expensive January transfers with the like of Oscar and some of the other guys that have gone to China. But let me know down below if there's any January transfers you think I missed that should have been in this episode. And let me know what other January transfers or best or worst or current transfers you would like to see me do in future videos. Smash that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Have a fantastic day and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.